Hello everyone, how are we? Kaya George, if you're still here, and thank you for your welcome to Nala Kala Budja, and recognition of how partnerships are so important into how we move forward in regional Western Australia. And I think it was Loudon Wainwright once wrote in his song, "Man ate an island, John Donne wasn't lying," and I think that's exactly right. You can't operate by yourself without partnerships, and maybe we'll talk a bit about that a bit further on. I'm not going to go through all the acknowledgements except a couple. Fellow panel member, resident Creevy, the Honourable David Templeman, a member for Mandurah, and Mum would like to know when you're going to come around and see her next. It's been a while. Thanks, brother. And also I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Hendy Cowan, who is the former leader of the Nationals in Parliament and in many respects the father of regional development and the man who set up regional development commissions 20 odd years ago, I would say, at a guest. So welcome, Hendy, and good to see you here. All other distinguished guests, I hope you can forgive me for not acknowledging you individually. Terry Redmond would love to be here. If you know Terry at all, he's not a man who shirks his responsibility or his work or his workload, and there'll be very few things that keep him away from those two things. But one of them is his family, and that is why he's not being able to be here today. And he hopes that you'll accept his apology, which for you guys means that I have to step in, and I hope that I can in some way reflect his views and his vision for regional Western Australia in his speech that I'm going to try to deliver on his behalf. Can I just say that the CEDA partnerships that have been for these series have been outstanding, and the level of interest has been outstanding. There's 10 workshops across the state. This is the third of those, and so far we've had a sellout crowd in all of them. And I think it's a reflection of the renewed interest in regional development. And I think it's a reflection of the renewed interest in regional development driven by a government policy setting. And there's no doubt that people who lived in the bush over the last few years have seen a change in the aspirations, the vision and the can-do attitude, especially over the last 5 years. And I think that's been partly driven by the renewed focus of a government policy on regional development. And of course we want to keep that momentum going. It's our role in government to ensure that our regions are strong and contributing to the wealth of this nation and the wealth of this state, as we all know it already does to a great extent. So there are three key reasons as to why developing the regions is so important. Firstly, equality. People in the region deserve access to the same standards of services and opportunities as those in the city. And I think it's about a recognition that maybe people in the bush don't expect necessarily the same level of service, but have access to a service that actually ensures that they continue to live and work and grow old in the places they'd like to live, and especially in regional Western Australia. So it's not necessarily about having the equal amount of services, but it's about those ones that ensure that we can keep living and working in regional Western Australia. Second reason is unlocking economic potential, the investment in the necessary infrastructure and the services to ensure the continued wealth generation for the state and the nation. And I think there's a really good reason around spreading the population growth. Every day you listen to talkback radio in Perth and they talk about congestion and traffic problems. We'd love to probably have some traffic and congestion problems in regional Western Australia. I'm joking, of course. But it means that when you've got people, you've got services, and when you've got people, you've got investment. And while there's some unwanted consequences of that, there's no doubt that we want our regions to grow and have more people living in them. And I think there is a recognition even within metropolitan Perth that for Perth to be strong and to grow, our regional Western Australia needs to be strong and to grow. Now, I've talked a little bit about government policy, but really I want to talk about the role that Royalties for Regions has played in that policy setting. And I think in the last 6 years, it definitely has renewed the focus on regional development. But it's not all solely about the Royalties for Regions Fund and what that government money can do. As I said before, it's about partnerships, about facilitating private investment, and it's about attracting other people to come and see that they would like to invest and grow regional Western Australia as well. Royalties for Regions so far in the 6 years it's been going has invested over $4.2 billion into more than 3,500 projects, all the way from Esperance to Wyndham. And in the forward estimates budget, there is now $1 billion a year, each and every year, so $1 billion each year and every year into the Regional Development Fund. And so that's going to continue. So we've got to keep, $1 billion is keep pouring into the bucket. Somehow we've got to keep $1 billion pouring out of the bucket. And so if you look at what's happened in the past, that actually means that every region of our state, or the 9 regions of our state, are going to be about $200 million better off in Royalties for Regions funding than they have in the previous 4 years. And I think, as I spoke to about previously, it's really about that recognition of the aspirations of communities. I often go and talk to community groups and regional groups now, and often say that Royalties for Regions is not the end, it's just the means to the end. So it takes aspiration, it takes partnerships, it takes projects to make sure that that funding has regional development outcomes. To date, and I guess there's no apology for this, that Royalties for Regions funding has concentrated to a greater degree into the northern parts of the state. I'm sure if you've ever been and lived or visited the Pilbara, you would understand that 5 to 10 years ago there was a great deal of government underinvestment into those regions. I was always astounded by the fact that if you went to Queensland, all up the Queensland coast, there were large cities creating their own economy, and yet we couldn't seem to develop anything further north than Geraldton in any real sense, or a large city. And I think what Pilbara Cities has done is absolutely turned that around, and I would encourage everybody to go and just see what living in the Pilbara is like now, and the fact that some of the Royalties for Region investment is starting to normalise that community into a place where people want to work, but more importantly, people want to raise their families, and even more importantly, grow old. And some of the investment has been in seniors accommodation and senior services, and that's a good thing. But and there's always the recognition and the thought that that's where the first concentration is going to be, and as a member for the Southwest, you can be assured that I was banging on the table saying, well, that's fine, but we'll be moving our focus now, investment further south, as we start to fix those sort of things and some of those projects come to an end. And as those projects in the north tail off and the $1 billion keeps pouring into the Royalties Regions Fund, more of those funds are going to be coming to the south. And I'll touch on a couple of those now. So in this year's state budget, there's included a $600 million Growing Our South initiative, and these are to fund projects in the southwest, the Great Southern, the Peel and the Wheatbelt. And really it is in recognition that all the other regions have a specialised revitalisation fund. So the Midwest has a revitalisation fund put into the budget, and the $600 million for the Growing Our South initiative is in recognition of that. And that is a substantial resource, and it's probably a resource that's never been put into the southern parts of the state ever before. And major projects in the Peel region that potentially could benefit from that funding are things like the Mandurah Business Park and the new Mandurah Traffic Bridge, as just two examples that could benefit from that fund. As part of our, I think if I reflect back on the history of Royalties for Regions and why it came about and why it was seen as so important, I think it was in recognition that there had been a level of underinvestment. I didn't want to use the word neglect there, but I want to use the word underinvestment into regional Western Australia. And it was really almost based on, any investment was almost based on, there's a service gap here, so we better go and fund it just to keep things going. And I think that's probably been true. And I think in the last 5 years we've even done a bit of that, plugging the gaps and plugging the hole to make sure that the services come up to standard and they're at a level that can be expected and maintain our regional communities. But I think now that we've done $4.2 billion and 3,500 projects, it's probably a bit time for be a bit more strategic about how we invest into the future. Maybe some of those gaps have been filled. Now we want to look at strategic ways of growing our communities. And so I think in terms of the blueprints, which Melissa talked about, this really is going to be the guide to a more strategic approach of royalties for regions funding and growing our regions into the future from a government perspective. Terry's been very, very keen on these blueprints to guide his decision making and the investment at a strategic level across the whole of regional Western Australia. So what are blueprints? They're an economic and social investment plan for the regions, and I think it's important to recognise that we want our economy to grow, we want our regional economies to grow, but we have to have a social dividend that comes with that. That's what makes places livable and why people want to live there. So it's about regional growth and development aspirations. There's some transformational strategies. There's some priority implementation actions, and there's also investment opportunities. Terry's very clear but it's not a shopping list of projects to be funded. It's meant to guide our strategic thinking and our strategic investment so that the whole of the region the potential of the whole of the region is unshackled. And really it's meant to be developed by the local stakeholders and have grassroots ownership. And really this is the document that everyone in this room should get involved in. If you think you've got an idea or a plan for the Peel region, then you should have been engaged in the development of the draft, and I would absolutely encourage you to get involved in the feedback period, which goes to the end of January, about 8 weeks to the end of January. So you've got a bit of time. You've got over those, when you're recovering from those Christmas drinks, get this out and have a look at it, because this is going to be your guide for regional investment into the future. And please put in your ideas, because it's only your ideas that are going to make the difference to your region. And it's not an idea that I'm going to have or the Minister for Regional Development has. It's going to be the ones that are driven from this very room and from this very region. Just on that point, I'd like to say thank you to the Peel Development Commission, especially the board, the chair and the staff who have really taken on the task with a great deal of gusto, and all the development commissions have done the same, and they see it as their real opportunity to put their particular development commission area on the map into the regional investment. And it's a great effort, and I look forward to seeing the finished product with all that continued input, as does the Minister, who again sees it as an important tool to guide his decision making. So I know Melissa covered a little bit of the blueprint, but I want to talk about 4 themes that are considered pivotal in this region's future. It has to have a thriving industry, have a broadened and diversified industry base to boost the depth and breadth of jobs across the region. And I think that applies to every region. You can't rely on a one egg in the basket kind of approach anymore. There's no resilience in that. So we have to diversify and broaden our economic base. Agriculture and food innovation, boosting the region's agricultural sector through innovation in production methods and renewable water and energy supplies. There's no doubt you would have seen much media and hype around the agricultural sector, and we believe at the nationals and the government level that the agricultural boom is just around the corner for us. we've invested $300 million into a seizing the opportunity in agriculture, and because the partnerships we're into the Asian region is really going to drive our agricultural economy, and there is so much potential. I think the Minister of Water was telling me that we irrigate about, and I'm pretty rubbery with figures, right? But this is to give you an idea. I think we irrigate only like maybe 40,000 hectares in the whole of Western Australia, and the potential is like 10 million hectares in regional Western Australia, and yet we haven't tapped into it. Like I said, rubbery figures, but it's a massive potential for irrigated agriculture, and we should be making the most of that, and we'll be investing into those. And I would say that anyone who's got an interest in agriculture in this room, get on board, work with the partnerships that have established in Harvey and Waroona, and further south in Bunbury with the Walshes, because we need everybody working together to seize those opportunities. The blueprint's also going to talk about capable people, having educated and highly skilled workforce that can respond to workforce requirements in the future. And I note that little stat about only 14% of the people in Peel have got. How much time have I got? 14% of the people have got a. I'm over time. Thanks. 14% of the people have got an education, higher education qualification, and the state average is 31%. And I think that's probably reflected in all regional Western Australia, and it's one of our major challenges, I think, in making sure that people stay in regional Western Australia. When I think about it, I break it down into jobs, education for your children and yourself, and access to health. And if we can make sure that those services are well and truly delivered into regional Western Australia, we'll have many more people staying and moving into regional Western Australia. I didn't realise I could waffle so much. I'm going to skip along. Oh, you say that because I'm a politician. I can. I came into politics by accident, I've got to tell you, and it was through my background of working with regional communities. I ran a small community development company, and it was in the years of about 01 to 07, and I was working with all the regional communities all across the state on leadership development, but also aspirations. And when I was working with those, there was no means to the ends. They had a heap of ideas, but really the only way they were going to get them funded was through local chook raffles and selling wood off the back of the ute. And I went, this can't go on any longer, so that's why I got involved in the Nationals and got involved with regional politics, if you like, because I thought that was a way of influencing regional decision making and regional policy setting. So I better conclude, except to say the blueprint is very, very important. I would be encouraging you all to get involved in what you see as the important priorities to make the Peel region grow. And I know it's a diverse region. You go from Mandurah to Waroona to Boddington. It's a diverse region, just like all of regional Western Australia is. So there's going to be something in there that needs to address each of those parts of the region. Get involved with public comment. Get your ideas and thoughts in there, because we want to enact on those ideas and those thoughts that are important to the local people and the local decision makers and the local leaders. Because you're going to lead the implementation of the blueprint. All we're going to do, and the Minister's going to do, is enable it with some strategically focused funding that hopefully makes a great deal of difference into the Peel region and the people who live here. I think I'll conclude there, but thank you for having me. I hope I've reflected some of the Minister's words, and maybe if any of his staff are here, they can tell me how I went. But again, I sincerely apologise for Terry's absence, and he's completely engaged in this process. So if you haven't had a chance to attend another CEDA event, perhaps in Perth or a nearby region, I encourage you to do that, to hear his words from the horse's mouth. So thank you very much.